Morning, good afternoon, good evening. The gentleman I've got this video clip from, Mabena, he is one of the regular contributors to the Zimbabwe political discourse. And he has said a lot of thought-provoking things. But I must admit, this video took me by complete surprise. I could not believe that he would say such a thing. I'll just play a few minutes of it. And for those of you who would like to listen to the entire video, you can find it on YouTube. And that is the details you need to find it. But I'll just play a short clip of it.
Zimbabwean politics. A lot of interest has been shown by some comrades following the videos that we have been doing, particularly on the question of elections in Zimbabwe. There are mixed views. Some comrades have given up on an election, and our revolutionary duty is to get these comrades to understand that an election is part of a revolutionary process. It does not necessarily mean that once you win election, you have won state power. No, that's not it. But it is part of the revolutionary process. This is why once we win governance, the right to govern or win an election, we must then dismantle the neo-colonial state. A neo-colonial state cannot just be dismantled by removing one government and replacing it with the other. If that was the case, neo-colonialism would not be still in existence in Africa. So we must take the question of an election seriously as comrades. As I'm saying that there are mixed views, there are some who are saying that ZANU-PF cannot be removed through an election. There are some that agree with us. But ZANU-PF itself is afraid of an election. ZANU-PF is afraid of an election. ZANU-PF does not want the majority of Zimbabweans to register to vote and participate in the electoral process. Because they know that if the majority of Zimbabweans participate in an electoral process, it will lose power. It clearly understands this. So ZANU-PF, they enjoy when there are many comrades on social media who discourages all of us to participate in the electoral process, to say ZANU-PF cannot be defeated in an election. We must find other methods of winning power in Zimbabwe.
I'll stop it right there. Ben, can you believe the argument that participating in an election is part of the revolution? I find it unbelievable that anyone, particularly of Mapena's structure, would issue such a statement without realizing the contradiction in it. We are not just talking of an election here. He admits ZANU-PF rigged the election. And to keep on saying we must participate regardless, to me, is the most irrational argument you can give.
You would have thought that, 25 years of doing the same thing would have at least made us face the fact that, you know, participating in rigged elections is exactly what ZANU PF wants us to do, because the results have always shown that ZANU PF, after rigging elections, they have won. So you cannot say they, they are afraid of an election. They are not afraid of a rigged election because they have total control of the process. They have control from the very beginning, before we even start even the election itself. From the rally level right through media, everything, they have an advantage. Then how can somebody, stand up and say ZANU PF? If it was a free and fair election, I would have said spot on. ZANU PF will be afraid. But the fact that Zimbabwe has never had a free, fair, and credible election can never scare ZANU PF. That is a lie if he is saying that way. The SADC report and all other observer mission reports stated that our elections were not free, fair, and credible. In short, they said they were illegal. How then do you think that the ZANU PF would be afraid when the ball is in their court? That is just nonsense.
I think what I find ridiculous with that statement is the failure to accept, to even accept on principle that there are rules that governs elections. And those rules are there for a purpose. And like every other thing that is governed by rules, you also have got to say, if the rules are broken, what is plan B? And his blanket statement in this case of saying people must participate in those flawed elections, regardless of how flawed the process gets, is pathetic. It doesn't make any sense at all. Like you correctly said there, ZANU PF knows that it cannot win free, fair, and credible elections. But it also knows that if it's allowed to rig the elections, it will never lose. And in this particular case, we come up with the rules to make sure elections are free, fair, and credible. And ZANU PF knows that it can ignore those rules and you participate regardless. The whole thing, it becomes totally meaningless to say, oh yeah, it's still part of the revolutionary process that we must participate. Participate in a process that you already know. I mean, Zimbabwe is not as if this is our first elections. In 2023, we're looking at, we had elections for the last 43 years. And in that period, ZANU PF has blatantly rigged the elections. We had the opportunity to stop ZANU PF rigging the elections during the JNU. We failed to implement even one token reform. And SADC itself said, don't go to the 2013 elections without putting reforms in, because ZANU PF will rig again. And our opposition, who had failed to implement the reforms, decided they were going to go into the elections. And ever since, the opposition has been participating in these flawed elections, knowing fully well that the process is flawed. And knowing fully well that by participating, they are giving ZANU PF legitimacy. And therefore, for somebody of the stature of Mabena to say, oh, we still must go into the election, it beggars belief. It really, to me, shows a lack of common sense. I'm really disappointed, I have to say.
The sad part is his argument is that of, the classic case of, let's bail the cat. The mice were being harassed and being killed by the cat, and they had a meeting to say, how can we stop our comrades from dying? And one decided to say, why don't we put a cat around, a bell around the cat's neck, so that when he is approaching, we can hear him. This is what he's saying. Let us dismantle ZANU PF through elections, and then we can fix the system after. How and who is going to dismantle ZANU PF when ZANU PF rigs elections? 25 years is a very, very long time of people trying the same thing. It cannot be done. The mice cannot put a bell around the cat's neck. How and who is going to put that bell? If he can answer that, to say we have been doing this election thing, it's not as if people have not been participating in rigged elections and giving ZANU PF legitimacy. When ZANU PF sees us in those lines going to participate in rigged elections, elections that have got no rules, elections that are illegal, how then are they afraid when you have just given them a blank check? Because they will do the counting anyway. Surely, I have to agree with you to say, of Mr. Mabena's stature, and after so long, he still hasn't got it. That ZANU PF thrives and lives for us participating in rigged elections. And they will not do anything about it because they know we are willing to go into a battle or into a meaningless process regardless. It's sad, very, very sad.
The reason why the opposition have been participating in these flawed elections was explained by David Coulthard in his book. And we have quoted this from his book, in which he clearly states that the process itself was so flawed, so illegal, the only logical step was to withdraw. Why did he not withdraw? He explains it there. He, as part of the MDCN group, could not trust the other side, MDCT, to withdraw as well. And they knew that whichever side participate, they would win the few gravy train seats that ZANU PF offered to entice the opposition to participate. And therefore, it is for that reason that they continue to participate in flawed electoral processes. Not what Mabena is telling us here, that it is part of the revolutionary struggle to keep on participating in flawed elections. They were participating out of greed. How anyone can continue to pretend not to see that and understand that, beggars belief. What the opposition went on to do then is to con their followers to participate, telling them all manner of idiotic lies, claiming that they have got strategies to win rigged elections. I mean, Jamisa's 2023 lie that he had plugged all the vote rigging loopholes should have left anyone with half a brain asking, what are you talking about? Zimbabwe does not have something as basic as a verified voters roll, for instance. How are you going to tell me you're going to plug all the vote rigging loopholes that the lack of a verified voters roll creates? There's no point in making the argument that if everyone registers to vote, how many people in Zimbabwe have tried to register to vote? ZANU-PF in the opposition strongholds make you jump through all manner of hoops to get to register. And when you've done all that and you've got your voter registration slip, when the voters roll comes out, many have found that their names is still not on the voters roll. In some cases, your name is on the voters roll, but in a constituency that you have never lived in. And without verifying the voters roll, ZANU-PF can introduce all manner of things that will help the party win and undermine the opposition. When you do not have some of the basic rules obeyed, and you keep on saying, yeah, still we must go and participate, it's the most idiotic argument one can give. And after 45 years of rigged elections, it really is unbelievable that anyone who still want to convince people that they must still participate in an electoral process that is so flawed, so illegal, that if you participate, you only give legitimacy to the process. You only give legitimacy to ZANU-PF. And that is what we have been doing for the last 45 years. And to still argue that that is a logical thing to do, it really is unbelievable. Just unbelievable.
You know, in any sport or in any competition, there are rules and regulations that the competitors need to abide by. And if those rules and regulations are not being upheld, increasing the number of participants does not fix a broken system or a broken, rule set. Mr. Mabena, Zimbabwean elections are rigged, and they are rigged by ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF are not afraid to rig elections. They are happy with the system as is. You cannot win rigged elections. 25 years with MDC, CCC has shown that it is impossible to rig elections. Where and how are they rigged? No one knows. At what point? It's done anyway. You can never close. There is no way to close those loopholes. There are just so many. Let us fix the system first. And I'm saying, if there are no reforms, there shouldn't be any elections. No reforms, no elections, period.
Well, my closing remark, I want to start it with playing this video of Nelson Chamisa.
Makorokoto Zimbabwe nokuti hakuna munhu anomira kana denga raronga plan. Denga raronga plan, denga harifo iri. Plan yaMwari haifo iri. Ini ndatanga kugadzira cabinet. There is no way we are not going to form a new cabinet. There's no way we are not going to have a celebration. There's no way we are not going to have an inauguration. Let's start preparing for our inauguration. Let's start preparing for our celebration.
This video clip was before the 2023 elections. But we know that come 2028, we'll be hearing the same thing. Chamisa will be conning people to participate in flawed elections, making them believe that this time change is definitely coming. We not only dealing with the certainty that ZANU-PF will rig the elections, we are also dealing with the certainty that the opposition will participate out of greed. If we are serious about ending this vicious cycle of rigged elections and bad governance, then we must be smart enough to realize that we are being shortchanged here. The right to free, fair, and credible election is a fundamental right. It's not a privilege, it's a right. And when it's being denied, and with the evidence that it is being denied, we should have the courage to say, no, we are not going to keep on participating in a flawed process to give the process legitimacy. That is the quantum leap that we have failed to make. ZANU-PF will never make it because the system suits ZANU-PF. The opposition will never make it because the opposition, as much as they want to pretend that they're serious about winning political power, they are quite content with having a share of the spoils of power. It's when they come to us, the ordinary voters, that the opposition suddenly says, we are going to win these elections. We don't need reforms. We have got strategies of winning rigged elections. And yet again and again, they've shown that those strategies do not work. We should have the common sense to finally say, enough is enough. We cannot keep on participating in flawed elections when our right, our fundamental right, is to have free, fair, and credible elections. And the only reason why we are not having free, fair, and credible elections is that we have got both the ruling party and the opposition who are now working in cahoots, trying to convince us that we can still have a meaningful say in the governance of the country, even if the election is rigged. After 45 years of rigged elections, for Pete's sake, let's come to our senses and finally put our foot down and say no. SADC and the AU condemned 2023 elections. And they would have denied ZANU-PF legitimacy if Zimbabweans had not participated in their millions in that flawed election process. And they participated believing Chamisa lie that he had plugged all the vote rigging loopholes. The real question here is, do we have the common sense to finally say to Chamisa, no, we don't believe you. We don't believe you can plug all the vote rigging loopholes in an electoral process that is so flawed you don't even have something as basic as a verified voters roll. This is just a question of common sense. There is no revolutionary struggle that says you must keep on participating in a process that is so flawed that you cannot win, and that participating will only give the process legitimacy. after 45 years, for Pete's sake, let's have the common sense for a change. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ben. Do you want to give your closing remark?
In closing, I think you have done justice. We have tried this, for 25 years and counting. ZANU-PF rigs elections. We all know that. And we all cry the following day after elections. This here is just a classic case of belling the cat. It cannot be done. We need to stop participating in rigged elections to give ZANU-PF legitimacy. And I say again, if there are no reforms that are implemented in the 2028, by 2028, there should be no election. And we should stand up and fight for those reforms. Thank you.
My closing remark will be, for those of you who have a chance, I would strongly recommend that you try to listen to Mapena's video, and it's available, and that's the address at the bottom of your screen. My closing remark will be that if we are conned to participate, and that is exactly what ZANU-PF is counting on, then we'll perpetuate the dictatorship. If we say no, SADC and the AU will deny ZANU-PF legitimacy, and we'll be back to where we were in 2008. And this time will be a wider work to make sure that reforms, democratic reforms, all of them are implemented. This is just a question of common sense. There is no revolutionary zeal in saying we must perpetuate a system that is already failed. By participating, you will only perpetuate this ZANU-PF dictatorship. And after 45 years, and by the 2028 elections, we'll be looking at 48 years of rigged elections. You participate on the basis that you would win the rigged elections. It's the most idiotic argument one can give. Think about it. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.